Hello Pisces, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We'll be pulling for all three sides of the connection, so we're going to look at your energy toward it, their energy toward it, and the energy in between it, the concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we're looking at your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section will be looking at what is the deeper purpose of this connection, the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. On that note, and especially if you're a cross-watcher, just know that this whole reading can be reversed. If that is the case for you, that is totally fine and totally normal. Again, take what helps, leave what doesn't. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Pisces. As always, we're going to start with overall energy through oracle cards first, and then we'll dive deeper into the story with tarot as we progress. So let's start, Pisces, with your side of this connection. Pisces energy toward the person they are dealing with. Robotic, deja vu. And then here's reciprocity. So I kind of hear like clockwork. You know that saying, it's like this thing happened like clockwork, like right on time or like right as expected. And I feel like there's some sort of cycle in this connection that no matter what keeps appearing. Now, I do feel that there was like a promise of things changing, and like, because at the end of the day, and this is going to sound really vague because this is just overall energy, but it feels like a lack of reciprocity. So an energy of you know, giving a lot more than what it is that you're receiving. Maybe this cycle is happening in a connection with a specific person. Maybe it's happening in a connection with different people, but I feel like there is a cycle that keeps showing up in your relationship or in your relationships like clockwork, whatever that means for you. And I feel like it's something that almost feels so expected at this point, and maybe even has you questioning whether or not you're going to be able to receive and have the love that you are truly desiring here. And just to go ahead and get this out of the way, you absolutely can. But let's break this down a little bit further and see if we can see what's going on here. So let's look at this person's energy toward you. Romance, euphoria, and synchronicity. This is kind of giving this energy of like, of love bombing, in a way. Like, I feel like this person comes on really strong, and then contract here. And they make a lot of really big promises, whether it be with their words or their actions. And it provides you with like a lot of hope that things are going to be what it is that you are wanting in relationships. But then it feels like they have this tendency to withdraw or to stop prioritizing. Like with this contract card here, it kind of feels like there are other obligations that they then start to focus on more than you. And it just starts to like you stop feeling more and more like you're not a priority in this relationship. And maybe this is in relationships in general. So that's where, you know, you start to feel like you're giving and receiving a lot less than what it is that you desire. But I feel like it's hard because, again, I do feel like this person has a tendency to come on really strong, and to like almost like, I kind of hear like promise you the world, just to very, very much under deliver here. And I don't know where that's coming from, or like what's getting in the way, or like what this is really talking about, but I do feel like there is a lot to break down here. Like, it's a lot more than just like what's going on the surface. Truth of this connection between Pisces and this person. And maybe this is a cycle in your love life too. Like in the beginning, things feel so promising and you're overwhelmed with excitement about a connection, just for things to start to dwindle whenever there is like a commitment or things start to get serious or whatever the case might be. Truth of the connection between Pisces and this person. Ooh, okay. Whoa, okay. I mean, this is telling a whole story here, because so you have soulmate recognition with interference, ego and manipulation, and then triggered with trapped. So you feel very trapped in this cycle when it comes to this connection, or maybe other connections as well. And it feels like this connection is really interfering, or this cycle is really interfering with you being able to have what it is that you do feel like you're being promised in the beginning of connections. Now with this ego and manipulation card, obviously this is a little bit alarming, right? Like this to me feels like there's something like darker below the surface, but I don't necessarily feel that in this person's energy. Like I don't feel like this person is intentionally being manipulative. I do feel like ego starts to get in the way though. And then as things start to get, deeper, like you spend more time with this person, I feel like those triggers start to come out, and it feels like this person's immediate response is to withdraw, and then that pulls you in more, because I feel like you're then like, well, I don't want to lose this, but then you feel like they pull away more, so then maybe you start to pull away, and then things kind of just like, I don't know, like clockwork, like fall apart or start to get complicated when there was so much promise in the beginning. And this cycle is something that I feel like just keeps showing up in this cycle or in your connections in general. So I want to get to the root of this, because I feel like there's, it's hard when you're dealing with people who are a little bit love bomby, or who come on really strong, or who like promise you the world, because you want to believe them, right? Like you want them to be telling you the truth, because especially if they provide a promise for you to have the things that you really do desire, like of course you're going to want to try to take that as far as it can go. But I feel like that this is something that just keeps appearing, where you keep feeling very let down. It's like you keep feeling let down by this person, or like similar partners in your life, or maybe even just your relationships in general. Maybe this is also, extending into friendships or, familiar relationships, just like this feeling of being overpromised, and then the under delivering. Overall theme of this reading for Pisces, please. What does Pisces need to know about the theme of this reading between them and the person they're dealing with? See, there it is. Second option, someone has unmet needs. It's like you're constantly then you're constantly put in this position of feeling like you don't matter to this person. And I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do feel like there's like a lack of consistency in their effort. It's like they put in all of this effort just to make sure that they get to like have you or keep you, but then when it comes down to like the everyday stuff, I feel like there's a lot of lack of what you need here. Detour with stand your ground. So I definitely feel like this is a cycle, and figuring out what's in your control when it comes to cycles is like the key, because obviously if you could, if in a perfect world it'd be like, oh, this person is consistent, or they stop pulling away when things get harder, like whatever the case might be. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot to break down here. So let's look at this deeper, Pisces. You have deja vu with robotic. This is Pisces side, the connection to the person they are dealing with. It's like you keep getting your hopes up just to have them let down. And I know from personal experience, like how painful that can be. Especially if you've never really had the love that you truly desire. Like you might really start believing that you can't. Especially if you experience this cycle enough times, like it can really, really have an effect on you. So let's see, Pisces, what's going on your side of this. Literally, 5 of Cups. Disappointed, let down, feeling this grief. And this is like something that keeps happening. This is not just like a one-time thing. This is something that I feel like you keep finding yourself in this position of, out of 5 of Pentacles, feeling this loss. What else? Oh my goodness, Pisces. So you have 5 of Cups, 5 of Pentacles, 10 of Swords, 8 of Wands in reverse with this moon, because then there's just this like, I don't understand why this keeps happening to me. Like, especially if you have this tendency to really put your heart and your soul into your connections. And, I don't necessarily believe in stereotyping, certain zodiac signs, but I've known a lot of Pisces in my life. And I know that you guys tend to really wear your heart on your sleeve, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's because you have so much love to give. And I know, how hard it can be when you do give so much of yourself to the people in your life, to your connections, to the people that you love, and you just find yourself feeling like it's not enough. Like you pour yourself into somebody and you come up short because of whatever reason. Or you feel like you come up short because, they walk away or they withdraw or whatever the case is. And then you find yourself in this position of being like, why am I not enough? How come people always leave or people, always disappoint me or whatever the case is? And I know from my experience of both, being in those types of relationships and also watching other people deal with those types of relationships, how incredibly painful that can be, in the fear that starts to arise, where it's like, I'm never going to be able to be loved, or I'm never going to have the love that I deserve. And that fear can be so, so real. And I think that this reading is really Spirit trying to bring forth this message that this doesn't have to be your experience. This is just a cycle. And I don't want to say this is just a cycle in the sense that like you shouldn't feel what you feel, or that your emotions and your experience isn't valid, because it absolutely is. But the more that we can try to remember that cycles are not truth, they're merely an indication of something that needs to be addressed, something that needs to be healed, something that we're needing to learn, then we can remember that just because we've experienced something over and over again doesn't mean that we're destined to experience that specific thing for the rest of our life. So I can understand why you would feel really in a tough place right now, because Pisces, I feel like you are never, you just continue not to find connections that give you what it is that you give. And it's so important for you to know that you are deserving of having that you're capable of having it. Is the 8 of Cups there? You're in the middle of a pretty intense journey here too. 6 of Cups. Okay. So this is a cycle that is all too familiar for you, something that I feel like maybe has started for you from a really young age, maybe from, even childhood, just feeling like you weren't enough, feeling like, no matter what, you were never actually fully ever receiving the love that you do truly deserve. And I think that, it's important to remember that we we come into this world knowing nothing other than we exist, right? And then from that point forward, every single thing that we experience through, our relationship with our parents or watching our parents' relationships, this is in particular talking about love, but we learn what love is and what's possible for us and what we're capable of having. And a lot of times we go through experiences in our early life that make us believe a lot of really limiting things around love, especially, again, if you struggled to receive the love that you have always been deserving of from people who should have loved you in a way that you were deserving of. It can really really affect the way that you view yourself and what's possible for you in love. So then as you grow up, you carry these beliefs that like you're unlovable and you're unworthy and you're undeserving of love unless you overgive. So then you tend to attract people, not just you in general, this is just kind of what happens. We tend to attract people that make us feel like we're not enough because we feel the need to prove that we are. And I feel like this is something that just keeps on appearing in your relationships here. We're getting really deep in this reading. And I feel like that's because Spirit is really, really trying to draw your attention to the cycle itself and not keep you so that you could break out of it, right? So that, because with this detour card here, I feel like this really is this message that this cycle is getting in the way of you being able to have the love that you deserve and desire. So let's see what we've got with this person. Romance with Euphoria. Person's energy toward you, Pisces. Because I feel like you've been through a lot when it comes to your relationships, and you are deserving of more. You've always been deserving of more, and you might know that, but struggle with actually being able to create that in your experience. Page of Swords in reverse. Oh, okay. They have the Ten of Swords here. Temperance in reverse. Two of Swords. Ten of Wands. I knew we were going to see that. So something that I learned from experience a lot of relationships with people who love bomb, and to be very upfront with you, being someone in a relationship who used to love bomb, is that people who love bomb, people who come on really strong with excessive flattery or gifts or promises or whatever the case is, at their core feel very insecure, feel not good enough for love, and therefore have this feeling of having to overcompensate. So they overcompensate greatly in the beginning with, again, all of these promises, all of these, wonderful experiences, because in their mind, they have to go all out with all of this, or else if you see, who they really are, then you might not love them or find them, worthy and deserving of the love that they too desire. Now, it's important also to know that a lot of people who do this are very unaware of the root cause of that, and at their core really actually do desire love. And I feel like that's what I'm seeing with this person. I feel like they do desire that deep connection, but at their core, I feel like they feel very unworthy and undeserving of it. And that is A, what causes them to go, the love bombing, the extreme promises, but then B, what also causes them to not be able to back it up. Because when we enter into relationships with anybody in our life, those relationships are going to poke at our insecurities. They're going to make us have to face some of the more difficult things about ourselves, whether or not we believe we're worthy and deserving of love, the trauma that has, planted certain beliefs in our mind, things of that nature, right? And this person carries a lot of baggage from their past. It feels like they've experienced this Ten of Swords in this past, whether it's betrayal, whether it's abandonment, whatever the case might be, and they carry that with them. And because they carry so much of that with them, they have a very deep-seated belief that love is something that isn't actually possible for them. And because that is the case, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then they start to make decisions, Two of Swords, based on that baggage, based on the baggage that that they carry. You know, the belief that, you know, people are always going to betray them, or people are always going to abandon them. And then it's almost like they, you know, when you have like a fear of abandonment or fear of betrayal, and you don't know how to be intimate and open with another person, you're going to do everything in your power to keep that person at a distance. And I can say that because I used to be that person. I used to allow my insecurities and my traumas to drive my decisions in relationships. And that caused me to really push away people who treated me well and loved me well. And this was not something I was doing consciously. It was what I had learned to do to survive. Now, that didn't make it okay, because I did hurt people in the process of that. But again, it was never intentional. But that didn't mean that the people that I was dealing with were deserving of it by any means. And I think that looking back now, I can understand why I did a lot of the things that I did. But, you know, the only real apology is acknowledgement of behavior, you know, and actual changed behavior, which is something that I've actually been able to do. But I can tell you, like, from this person's experience, I don't think that they just like set out to hurt you. I don't feel like they set out to make you feel not good enough. I don't feel like they set out for betrayal. I feel like they're in this position in their own emotional and like personal journey where they have a lack of healing that causes them to make really unhealthy decisions in relationships. Now, at the end of the day, that's their responsibility, right? I am a firm believer that if our trauma if we don't know how to handle our baggage, our trauma, or our triggers, that we should not be in a relationship, and we should take some time to actually remove ourselves from the experience of others and to really work on ourselves, right? But that isn't always something that a lot of people are aware of or even want to admit that they need to do. So it's interesting because I actually feel like this person is also frustrated with their inability to be able to commit to or to build or have healthy relationships, yet a lot of their decisions are the reason for why they're not able to do that. I think that this person is someone who lacks a lot of awareness, especially with the Page of Swords in reverse. I feel like they lack a lot of like kind of like self-awareness here. About how their decisions impact others or why they make decisions from certain places. And I think that with that being said, you know, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel the way that you feel, right? You have every right to feel hurt by this person's behavior, by this person's decisions. But the question we have to ask ourselves is not necessarily why did someone do the things that they did to us, but more so, why do we attract people or keep attracting people who make us feel less than what we're, you know, less than we are, or deserving of less, or unlovable, or whatever the case is. And when we start to look at our side of the cycle, we start to actually take back our power and our control from connections instead. And this is where a lot of people experience this, where they attract the same type of relationship in either the same person or in different people. And then they start to believe this is all that I can have. Like this, you know, from my experience, which is normal, right? We're going to tend to believe based on what we've experienced. But if you continue to experience a lack of love and a, you know, betrayal or whatever the case is in your relationships, you're going to believe on some level, this is all that's possible for me. And that isn't the case, but looking at what keeps driving you into certain cycles with people who do this, or who, you know, try to pull you in really close, but then, you know, distance themselves or push you away or undervalue you when it gets down to it, you know, understanding where that cycle stems from can really help. And I think that that's why when we were looking at your energy, Spirit was really going into detail about understanding how we tend to actually attract into our life what it is that we're used to experiencing. So if we've never experienced the love that we deserve and desire, we might actually continue to search for that limited level of love that we're used to, because in our mind, understandably so, that's all that's possible for us. And I feel like that it is so important for you to know that this is not all that is possible for you. You are very worthy and deserving of the love that might feel very out of reach right now, but this specific cycle that keeps appearing in your love life is the biggest factor. It's the biggest thing that is keeping you from what it is that you're truly, truly wanting here. And so I feel like this is about understanding that cycle in a very real and aware kind of way, so that you can break it. Because that's what healing is, right? Healing is about making conscious decisions to override subconscious unhealthy patterns. So like in this person's position, right, it would be making decisions to not allow their wounds or the things that they've been through to make decisions for them in relationships, right? So consciously, they would, instead of running, they would stay and work through things. Or instead of pushing you away or distancing themselves, they would start to uncover the reasons as to why they push people away, why they distance themselves, so that they can allow for more closeness, right? That would be a conscious decision of healing. But the thing is, and it's a lot easier to see how other people can make healthier decisions, but when we're dealing with relationships with other people, we don't have control over what they do. We don't have control over whether or not they make those conscious, healthy decisions. The only thing that we have control over is whether or not we do. So when we focus on what decisions that we can make to make sure that we are allowing ourselves the best opportunity to be loved in the way that we deserve and desire, that's what healing is all about. Otherwise, unconscious patterns might continue to exist, where we're attracting less than what it is that we really deserve, not because it's our fault, okay? Not blaming you by any means, but because we don't know better. We learn what love is and what we're capable of from a very young age, and we're going to believe love is about abandonment, love is about betrayal, love is about loss, love is about disappointment, or whatever the case is. And we might find ourselves attracting people that reflect that exact same thing back to us. Again, not because it's true, but because there is a wound that needs to be addressed, or healing or growth that needs to happen. And so I feel like that's a lot of what this reading is about, is not necessarily about a particular person as much as it's about a particular cycle that keeps repeating. So in between this connection, you have manipulation with trapped. We're going to hop on over to the extended, where we're going to dive deeper into this reading, looking at the deeper purpose and the best way for you to move forward in alignment with your higher self. Thank you so much, Pisces, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Pisces.